Aura is a word that gets thrown around far too much these days. In a way, it's lost its meaning. So, let's break it down in this video. Let's open our trusty search engine. Well, I'm using Google, so it's not very trusty, but anyway, let's type in what is the true definition of aura. And would you look at that? It's today's topic of discussion. Wolverine, Weapon X. Weapon X, to me, has a special place in my heart. It's the comic book that truly sold me on Wolverine as a character. And we all grew up watching Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, and I'm sure that that'll be a trend for the next generations as well. Although, instead of watching X-Men Origins Wolverine through portable DVD players like I did, the youth seem to watch it through little snippets on YouTube Shorts with AI voiceovers. Nonetheless, that face has been what kept Wolverine a recognized character throughout the rise of the Avengers and the fall of the X-Men. In terms of popularity, anyway. However, going beyond general audience knowledge, and diving into what makes Logan such an intriguing character in the comics is something that I have never done up until about 6 months ago, from the time I'm recording this video. A great friend of mine forced me to read Weapon X, and I thought, it's been adapted enough. I've seen it in multiple adaptations, it's been referenced to death, and I knew what happened already. But, just like Joe Chill, I gave it a shot. The fact I knew what happened in the book didn't really matter at all. Also, I'm like an inch away from 1,000 subscribers. I'd super appreciate if you watching this can click that sub button. I would say I'll do a giveaway when we hit 1,000, but I'm kind of broke, so maybe at 1,500, if we get there, I'll figure something out. Anyway, back to Weapon X. The story of Weapon X drastically succeeded my expectations, and it's what truly cemented Wolverine as one of my favorite Marvel characters. It takes Logan and tears him apart piece by piece. It's uncomfortable, it's unsettling, and it's heartbreaking. This man, who spent his time drinking away his sorrows, suddenly kidnapped and ripped apart and basically just used, is a tough story, and you really feel for Logan. I think the core of this book, however, and what really extends even past the events of Weapon X, is the dilemma Logan struggles with, and what has struggled with since he was young. Is he more man or more animal? Weapon X as a story takes this concept and really dives deep into it. What happens when Logan is at his worst? How does he behave? I think also about the fact that Logan doesn't get to choose the answer to that question. They turned him into an animal. They treated him like a beast. And that didn't help but fuel Logan's fear that he was more animal than man. I also have to give props to Barry Windsor Smith, who not only wrote the story, but illustrated and lettered it too. Weapon X is almost solely his story, and he really does a great job. It's almost like a second origin for Wolverine. The strongest parts in this book for me are the humanity within the main characters, such as Dr. Cornelius. Now, I'm not saying Dr. Cornelius is some saint. He's not. I mean, he's part of the reason why this happened to Logan in the first place. But something about him just is very human. He's not comically evil, and he's not some deranged psychopath. He's just kind of following orders and feeling a bit sorry for Logan, kind of. You still want him to die, like I'm just going to preference that. One thing I also liked was the reason for kidnapping Logan in the first place. Most of the people behind the program didn't even know he was a mutant. They gave the antagonists something new that they could do to him when they all found out he was a mutant. They could push his limits, and they were able to make the ultimate weapon. However, like most, they underestimate the Wolverine. Seeing Logan revert into this wild beast, slaughtering the guards and tearing them limb from limb like a rogue lawnmower, and overall just being quite terrifying, was almost upsetting because it's what Logan has been trying to avoid for his whole life. Then again, they did deserve it. A lot of the story also takes place strictly from the scientist's POV. So, when Logan escapes, you get to see it from their perspective. Imagine Resident Evil 3, but instead of Nemesis chasing you, it's naked Wolverine. It's almost leaning into horror the way Logan is presented to us after escaping. Barry really delivered with the art. Like, I really felt encapsulated by the art, and it kept me turning the page. This could have been written by Frank Miller in the mid-2000s and been totally wacko shit, but Barry's art would have kept me reading. However, thankfully, Barry wrote this one as well. And the writing and art combined made something that I really love and commend as one of my favorite Wolverine comic stories that I've read. The detailing was incredible, the way the bodies are drawn from very impressive angles and still feel natural and fluid and real really speaks to Barry's artistic skill. Even the technology is really thoroughly refined throughout the story, and the art delivers above and beyond what is needed in the panels. Throughout the story, the scientists disconnect Logan from his humanity forcefully. They stop calling him Logan and start calling him Subject or just the Experiment. And it's further forcing on this beastly, animalistic mindset onto Logan. I admire how Barry Windsor Smith approached this book, because apparently he wasn't even too concerned with Wolverine's lore. He just wanted to tell the story his way, and tell a story he did. It almost feels like a movie, the way this thing is told. It's vastly different from anything else you would see in comics at the time, especially because Logan was at his peak of popularity at the time period and was vastly different from other superheroes, because he wasn't really one. You know, he's a violent man with knives in his hands. Wolverine is one of the first cases of a character like himself being able to be told in a violent and adult story that still fit in with the world of the X-Men. This was really on the edge of when comics started to be a bit more mature, and this was one of the first times they could tell a story like this. Failure from Fox to adapt this story is something that, looking back on, was very funny. You know, they tried with X-Men Origins Wolverine, but, you know, everyone knows how that turned out. And then again in X-Men, I think it was Age of Apocalypse? Who fucking cares? They failed both times, and it really just felt like they used this one as weak fan service. Like, look guys, it's the Weapon X outfit, haha. Does this ruin our previous canon? Yes. But it's okay. We can change whatever we want, and fans will find a way to piece it together anyway. Anyway, the core of this story is, yes, to show us what happened to Logan before he became the Wolverine, fully. But also to show us one of the best examples of Logan fighting the beast in him. And not in a 2004 cringy pop song way, but he genuinely is verging on an animal. Like, he has claws in his hands and he brutally murders people. He has the capability to be just that, and is treated as such in Weapon X. He's treated like an animal, you know, and then only for him to push that away and try his best to prove that he's a man later down the line. Weapon X, taking his memories, is also more good setup for great Wolverine stories down the line. And I think what Marvel was doing with Wolverine in the 90s was fantastic. You know, with how they were slowly uncovering Wolverine's history bit by bit. I do hope we get to see a bit of the Weapon X story referenced in Insomniac's upcoming Wolverine game, as it's apparently before the X-Men are formed, which, by the way, is stupid to me. How do you have Spider-Man in his 10th year, and the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, but still surf Dracula-ing X-Men? I get it's not meant to be a direct comic adaptation, but it still feels wrong. Nonetheless, I am pretty excited for the game. And I mean, it's pretty obvious we'll get a Weapon X skin, and I hope they do it justice. Or I'll have to head over to Nexus Mods. The shorts are inaccurate. Anyway, thanks for watching me yap about this comic. I highly recommend you go and read it, even though we all know what happens. It's just a new experience going through and reading this masterpiece for yourself. I've done it multiple times at this point. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers. If I hit it this week, I'll be quite chapped. Anyway, catch you next time.